Over 10 years ago, I was at a high school leadership conference, and a picture of a cartoon acorn was shown on the projector screen. The presenter asked, "What do you see?" Several students raised their hand and responded with, "An acorn," as if it was a silly question. It was an acorn. But an acorn is not just an acorn. Timidly, I raised my hand and responded with a seed. Quickly, the feeling in the room shifted. The next student replied with a tree. The next, a tree grove. Until finally, a forest. It took one person to point out the obvious, for the rest of the room to see something more than what was right in front of them this whole time. It's potential. All I said that morning was 2 words, but those 2 words inspired an entire room of students to think differently. Later, while receiving my degree in social work, I learned that what I did was called strengths perspective. Strengths perspective is a lens that focuses on the strengths of an individual, community, and the environments in which they exist, rather than what they lack. I would also argue that strengths perspective includes seeing potential, as one's potential is an inherent strength. Often, we get so caught up in what a place or our own community lacks that we begin to internalize it. This was the case for me growing up in a trailer park. It was and continues to be a great place to spend your life, but because of the negative, pervasive stereotypes about trailer trash, it became hard to see myself as anything else. However, after I grew and started to see my own strengths and potential, I started to see the strengths and potential for my community. The types of strengths and potential that take an insider to see or even know about. If only I could get those who wish to serve my community to stop seeing us as people that need saving, and instead, as a community who is capable and full of untapped potential. If you live in or around a manufactured home community long enough, there is no escaping the persistent myths about how it's a lesser way to live. One of the most pervasive myths I encounter is that these homes are not as well built as site-built homes. However, in 1974, Congress passed the Federal Manufactured Housing Safety and Construction Standard Act to ensure safety, quality, and durability of these homes. Unlike site-built homes, manufactured homes are held to a single national quality and safety standard. In fact, the Housing Research Council states that manufactured homes produced today are more comparable in quality and safety to conventionally constructed single-family homes, which is almost laughable, because that same report found that the average newly constructed single-family home in 2019 cost just under $322,000, whereas the average newly constructed manufactured home cost just under $82,000 that same year. The next most pervasive myth I encounter is that these homes are bad investments. Allow me to burst your bubble. Housing is not a financial investment for most people. Housing is a safety and needs investment. We all need a place to live. But if you would like to take the MBA approach to buying and living in a manufactured home as an investment, allow me to take you through the case study of me. When I bought my 1998 manufactured home in 2021, there were slim housing options. and even less that were affordable. I could either get a 2-bedroom apartment starting at $1,300 a month with my fiance, or use my savings as a down payment for my childhood home. I purchased my home for $35,000 with a down payment of $7,000. The initial cost was a bit higher than what I would have spent on a first, last, and deposit. But even with my near 9% criminal interest rate, my mortgage was $380 a month, and my lot rent, $450, making my combined mortgage and lot rent $830 a month for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home with a spacious kitchen, laundry room, and a beautiful view. We decided to pay off our home as quickly as possible, now only paying $475 a month in lot rent. Our cost of living is so low that we were able to purchase 2.6 acres of property in our dream location this past spring. And recently, we had a real estate agent come to our home and let us know we could sell it for anywhere between $120,000 to $150,000. Due to affordability meeting ownership, we can afford to invest in and build a bright future for ourselves. Above all, I am escaping generational poverty. And friends, this is without taking into consideration the investment these homes are for our community, housing stock, and planet. Manufactured homes are built on the principle of efficiency. There are 5 primary factors that drive these efficiencies: economies of scale and high volume of materials being purchased, better coordination of production utilizing assembly line techniques, a controlled environment devoid of weather and other delays, standardized design and materials, and finally, reduced cost of securing approval from local codes. All of these efficiencies not only save the eventual owner time and money, but they also produce less pollution throughout the process of construction. And these are all things that are needed while humanity faces both a housing shortage and a climate crisis. This next section is dedicated to what my community could be if my neighbors were given the power of voice and control over the land we call home. I challenge you to one-up me. Allow this to be the seed for your forest as you imagine the possibilities. The first step necessary to produce an empowered community capable of community self-sufficiency would be seizing ownership of the land itself. There are a few ways to do this. My favorite is called a housing cooperative or a co-op. A co-op forms when members of a community come together to own and control the buildings and property they live on. For the case of manufactured home communities, this would mean the land, as many of the residents are already in ownership of their homes. A co-op is then run by residents of a community, often appointing a board of directors to decide on things like park policy, cost of rent, and most importantly, how the money gets spent. Residents would still pay monthly dues to support the cost of the community mortgage, maintenance, and improvements. But instead of a no-name corporation reaping the profits from the last line of affordable ownership-based housing, residents become empowered. Empowered to influence their environment, empowered to have authority over their lives, and empowered to choose what comes next. And what comes next? Wow, that is left up for my community to decide. But what could be next is what I think about when I walk through my community, eyes wide open to the possibilities. Behind my house is a pond. I grew up swimming in that pond, and today it's mine and my husband's track that we walk laps around near daily. It has been a source of leisure for me my entire life. The pond is surrounded by this beautiful green space that gets mowed regularly during the summers. I often wonder if this green space could be turned into a native plant preserve, where only the trails would be mowed. This would use less resources in terms of human labor and gas for the mower, while creating an environmentally beneficial space that promotes health and connection for the residents. Maybe it would look something like the beautiful native plant preserves you've seen popping around town, thanks to the Outdoor Discovery Center, like the one pictured behind me at the Holland Board of Public Works water treatment plant. Past the pond is a field. That too is mowed during the summers. It's just a field. What if it was a soccer field for community game nights? What if it acted as a trailhead for the park that we share a property boundary with? What if it was a community orchard or garden, kind of like the Kids Food Basket Farm at Ridgepoint Community Church? We are a food desert, after all. The closest store is a Dollar General. It is 1 mile away, and it does not sell fresh produce. Could you imagine an orchard or a garden? Every growing season, you get a steady flow of fresh produce into the community. Kids would grow up in a community connected with their food, which is shown to improve healthy eating choices for the rest of their lives. Overlooking the field is a large outbuilding. It no doubt stores all the general maintenance items for the park. Sometimes I wonder if it could be turned into a tool library, where residents could check out tools when needed, much like the 360 tool library here in Holland. The community would collectively save on the cost of home and lot maintenance. And for some, it would give them the ability to do it. I am privileged to have access to things like a drill, a nail gun, and a socket set. It saves us thousands when the inevitable home repair pops up. Having something like a tool library creates an environment that empowers and allows for all in our community to keep it in the best possible shape. I have been told my worth through the half-rotted boxes of expired food sprinkled on my neighbors' doorsteps throughout the years. The message was clear. It is an ongoing statement of where we are at on this totem pole of life. But I have been empowered with knowledge, voice, and an immense amount of privilege. If you have the knowledge of an injustice and the privilege to do something about it, you, therefore, have a duty to your community. And I have just that: knowledge, privilege, and duty. Duty to this community, the only place that I have called home. So here I am, using my voice to inspire something greater. I recognize that to most, this is just a naive dream of a multi-generational piece of trailer trash. I also recognize that the direction we are heading is unsustainable. Manufactured homes are the last line of affordable, ownership-based housing that has the added bonus of being more environmentally sustainable than traditional housing communities. My community is capable of more than what we are being afforded. By allowing for ownership of our homes and community, we can rewrite the lives and family trees of my friends and neighbors. My hope for you, dear listeners, is that you can leave inspired and willing to see the possibility in the things that seem to be just an acorn. Thank you.